Good morning, everyone. We're about to begin this seminar, Sound of Silence, Unveiling Human Rights Violations Against Doctors. We have our esteemed guests with us, so I'll now call on the dignitaries onto the dais. Dr. Sashidharan, Secretary IMA Kerala State Branch, Dr. T.N. Suresh, State President, Kerala Government Medical Officers Association, Dr. Nirmal Bhaskar, President, KGMCTA, Dr. Vinod P.K., State President, KGIMOA, Dr. Mubarak Sani, State President, KPMCTA, Dr. Nitin A.J., State Secretary, KMPGA. Advocate Benny Thomas, Senior Advocate, High Court of Kerala. Most respected National President-elect Dr. R.B. Ashokan, may I request Dr. Uman Varghese to kindly escort sir to the dais. We have the pleasure to invite one voice in the judiciary which has always stood for the cause of doctors and medical professions, Honorable Justice Devan Ramendran, Mid-Zone Vice President.
Congratulations. National President.
May I call on stage Dr. Jane Chimman, Dr. Jose, Dr. Raju, Dr. Biju, and Dr. Uman Varghese.
Let me head on our state president with the presidential medallion.
The meeting on Sound of Silence, Unveiling Human Rights Violations Against Doctors is hereby called to order. May I request the dignitaries as well as the gathering to kindly rise for the silent prayer. Thank you. Please keep standing. May I invite Dr. Jose Kurvilla Kokart, Mid-Zone Joint Secretary, for the IMA prayer and flag salutation.
IMA prayer. May everybody be happy. May everybody be healthy. May everybody be free from pain. May everybody be free from sorrow. May we be the healing cure beyond every creed and lure. Flag salutation. We, the members of Indian Medical Association, stand here to salute our national flag. Its honor and glory shall be our light and strength, and its course shall be our course. We pledge our allegiance to it, and realizing our responsibilities as accredited members of this national organization, we swear we We will dedicate everything in our power to see it fly high in the Committee of Nations. Jai Hind, Jai IMA.
Please be seated. May I invite Dr. Jane Chimman, Mid-Zone Vice President, IMA Kerala State Branch, for the welcome address.
Good morning, friends. Dear President Dr. Joseph Beneven, Honorable Justice Devan Ramachandran, National President-elect Dr. R.V. Ashokan, Senior Advocate Benny Thomas, Presidents and Office Bearers of sister organizations, Dr. Suresh T.N., State President of Kerala Government Medical Officers Association, Dr. Nirmal Bhaskar, President, Kerala Government Medical College Teachers Association, Dr. Vinod P.K., State President, Kerala Government Insurance Medical Officers Association, and Dr. Mubarak Sani, State President of Kerala Private Medical College Teachers Association, Dr. Nitin Neje, State Secretary of PG Association, and my dear friend Dr. Shashidharan, State Secretary, my dear Cabinet colleagues, past State Presidents, national leaders, and my dear friends. Today is a warm, bright Sunday morning. Yesterday there was thunderstorm throughout many parts of Kerala, but today morning there is no evidence of any thunderstorm. That is the way our profession behaves. We are all calm and composed on the outside. We are all hiding the turmoil which is inside. Friends, we are going to scientifically, as modern medical professionals, we are going to scientifically analyze the problem, try to find solutions, suggest ways to overcome the problem. So, our dear President, Dr. Joseph Beneven, before he took over, he has charted and prioritized all the state programs he is going to do this coming year. And he has given prime importance to this main event, which is going to be the first state event. And he has aptly named after the famous song of Simon and Garfunkel of 1960s, The Sound of Silence. So, on behalf of all of you, I welcome our dear President Dr. Joseph Beneven for today's meeting. Dr. Justice Devan Ramachandran has given many judgments that has positively impacted our medical profession, and each of his judgment is a case study in itself. I welcome you, sir, for today's function. We are very much honored to have you today in our midst.
Thank you so much, doctor. Oh, yes, doing medicine. Lovely.
And we have a senior advocate Benny Thomas, who is going to compile all the discussions that is going to happen here and suggest ways to move forward. I welcome you, sir, for today's program. Dr. R.V. Ashokan is the pride of Kerala State IMA. He is going to be installed as the national president by this month end. I welcome you, sir, for today's program. We have past state presidents who are ably supporting all the activities of IMA Kerala State Branch, and Dr. Srikumar Vasudevan, who is the international authority on medical ethics. He is going to coordinate the whole program today. I welcome you, sir, for today's program. And we have speakers from sister organization, Dr. Suresh T.N., who is the State President of Kerala Government Medical Officers Association. I welcome you, sir, for today's program. Dr. Nirmal Bhaskar, who is the President of Kerala Government Medical College Teachers Association. We welcome you, sir. Dr. Vinod P.K., State President of Kerala Government Insurance Medical Officers Association. We welcome you, sir. Dr. Mubarak Sani, who was my senior at college. He is the State President of Kerala Private Medical College Teachers Association. We welcome you, sir. And we will also welcome Dr. Nitin Neje, State Secretary of PG Association, and State Secretary Dr. P.K. Sasidaran, my cabinet colleagues and senior leaders and my dear friends. Thank you. Welcome.
Chief guest of the day, Honorable Justice Devan Ramendran, Judge, High Court of Kerala, our most respected National President-elect, Dr. R.B. Ashokan, Advocate Benny Thomas, Senior Advocate, High Court of Kerala, Dr. Sashidharan, Secretary, IMA, Kerala State Branch, Dr. Suresh T.N., State President, KGMOA, Dr. Nirmal Bhaskar, State President, KGMCTA, Dr. Vinod P.K., State President, KGIMOA, Dr. Mubarak Sani, Dr. Jain referred to him as a senior, he's my classmate, State President, KPMCTA, Dr. Nitin, the young and vibrant State Secretary of KMPGA, my cabinet colleagues on the dais, past presidents, program coordinator, Dr. Sri Kumar Vasudev, and all the delegates who are here. The sound of silence, that's something that's very intriguing. Like Dr. Jain Chimman in his opening remarks said, everything, the waters seem to be still and calm. But we all know as doctors working in various sectors, there is a very strong undercurrent. There is turbulence against us. And you never know when a person is going to be drowned. And that's happening day after day across the state, and not just across the state, even across the country. That's something, unfortunately, doesn't stimulate the conscience of the common public. Nobody ever cares and thinks about why, what's the situation of a medical professional. All that's expected of a medical professional is you got to be selfless, we are that. You got to serve and continue to serve, no matter. Very often, people forget the fact that there is a human being within this particular doctor, of whom there are a lot of expectations, that he is one like them, with his own emotions, with his own feelings. And over the last couple of years, we've been observing the fact. You must be wondering what kind of a meeting this is. Let me tell you, this is a consultative meeting. This is a meeting that's not meant for the masses. So that's why even our invitations were very limited, because we wanted a productive outcome of this meeting. Over a period of time, we've always noticed that the only solace that's been to all these associations, that is the KGMOA, the KGMCTA, the KGIMOA, and even the KMPGA, was submit memorandums to the government. We were always been begging them, please, these are our issues. Please open your eyes to our issues. We are harassed. We are violated. Our human dignity is compromised. But that factor is never taken into consideration at any point in time. We have witnessed it. Doctors go on strike, but then again, the issue of morality comes in, the issue of our conscience comes in, and then we are unable to restrict and stop services. We continue to provide service in a limited manner, saying casualties are exempted. We've never been able to do it, but nobody realizes and understands that it is not the expectation that's driving a doctor. It is his conscience and his purpose of his vocation, that is to be a doctor. It was under these circumstances we thought it was only befitting that on this World Human Rights Day, when across the globe people talk about the labor community, they talk about violations at various fora, that we thought it was befitting that we assemble all our aggrieved. This is the first time in the history of IMA Kerala State Branch that we are getting all the associations on this common platform to address their issues. We want to convey them, because what happens is when KGMOA submits a memorandum to the government or the KGMCTA, submits a memorandum, or the KGIMOA, any of these organizations, when they submit a memorandum, the government sees them as a fragmented group. But the government fails to realize that they are members of the medical fraternity and they all come under the umbrella of the Indian Medical Association. So that's our purpose today. We want to convey the message across to the governments, we want to convey the message across the bureaucracy that doctors, we are one united force, that we are in this game together. We are not going to be a house that's going to be divided. We will uphold our dignity. And now is the time that's come for us to raise our voice. We need to, that's why we put it, unveiling. Today, we hope to unveil the human rights violations which always been in the dark, which been happening for decades against doctors, for members of our fraternity. So this is the objective of this meeting. And I'm very happy, all the associations, they have responded very positively to this. And more than that, I'm very grateful to Senior Advocate Benny Thomas, because when I put across this suggestion to him, see, because we've always been looking at the solace or whatever benefits we get only from the government side. But we always fail to realize that we have rights inbuilt in ourselves. If a laborer has a right, if a trade unionist has a right, we should realize that as doctors, we have equal rights to protect our dignity. We are not asking for anything more. We're just putting a claim that our dignity is not abused, our dignity is not violated. So that's the objective of this, and I'm very happy that Advocate Benny Thomas, Senior Advocate of High Court, he took it up. And then again, Justice Devan Ramendran, you know, he was the one voice in the judiciary that stood for doctors on violence. And when we talk about violence, at that point in time, probably to our honorable justices, to his vision, we only had this violence against doctors where doctors were beaten up by the public. But today I was just telling him, so we have got a lot more violations happening on us. A lot more violations which are much more grievous and much more serious than an assault on a doctor or a medical professional, because an assault on a doctor or a profession, it's sporadic, it just happens and then it's not there for some time. But this violation in our workplace happens day in and day out, and we are bearing the humiliation, and we are bearing this violation, and we are bearing this abuse, setting aside our self-respect 24/7, 365 days. That's what our doctors working in various sectors are doing. So we want to open it up to the judiciary. We want to tell them, please see our plight. And we want to see if we can come up with some practical solutions. We need to probe ways and avenues, because there always got to be parallel thinking. So we need to move away and see if there is a claim that we can make on any of the aspects. Let's do it. So today, I'm sure, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, today a new history is going to be charted in medical profession. And that is going to be path-breaking. We are going to make a difference, and I'm very happy that all the associations have come together. We are expressing our solidarity with each and every member of our medical fraternity, no matter where he is working, and no segmentations, no fragmentations. We just want to convey the message that we are one, and we will be in this fight together, because ultimately, before the end of the year, we need to celebrate fraternal fellowship. So if we have to celebrate, we need to make sure that we set the road for that, and we wipe the tear from the eyes of each and every doctor. Even medical students, as issues have to be addressed. You see, back to back, we are having so many suicides happening. 2 here, over a short span of 7 days, we had 2 suicides happening in Kerala, and yesterday we had one happening in Safdarjung Hospital. So it's become a norm that doctors are expected to commit suicide. So what's the issue? So one major issue would be the violation of our rights. So I'm so happy that all of you have come here. This is going to be a very interactive session. The speakers, Dr. Srikumar Vasudev, will be explaining what the objective of this is. So let me tell you, let me thank all the doctors from various parts of the state who are present here today, because you are going to be part of history. That's the best thing about it. And give your suggestions when we have our question and answer sessions. Advocate Benny Thomas would be here with us. All our concerns, probably if our leaders fail to raise some particular issue, you are free to raise it as members of this fraternity. So let's do it. We need to chalk our path. We need to chalk our path. And we need to decide the direction that we are going to take. And the Indian Medical Association Kerala State Branch is committed to it. That's one thing I want to convey to all my fraternal brothers of all these organizations. And my humble request to the learned justice and senior advocate is, please look into these issues very sympathetically and please suggest solutions, the path that we can walk, because till date it is a path that's been untread. We are walking on untread waters. We are swimming on, waters that we've never gone into. So based on that, please give us your suggestions. Please tell us the way forward. We look forward to your guidance. And once again, I thank you all for being here. And let's be part of history. And let's continue to celebrate our fraternal fellowship. Thank you so much. May I have the honor to invite Honorable Justice Devan Ramendran to inaugurate this session and to deliver the inaugural address.
This one? Yeah. With everybody's permission. You are the big boss. I know, everybody is mentor. But no mind. Huh? Don't mind. That's being very possessive. I can't help it. Because that's how it's been. After every day, private practice like that.
I have a small hospital.
Oh, at Kundu.
Hospital.
Oh, you are a general physician.
My wife is Dr. Deepa. Dr. Deepa. Dr. Deepa. Kavita. Come. Rajeshwari Amma madam. Ashita, come. Dr. Hema, come. Come.
Good morning. Great pleasure to be here. Start off something which I start off all speeches with doctors. If there is one profession I've always valued more than mine, it's the profession of medicine. And I mean it. I wanted to be a doctor. I love to be a doctor even now. Somebody introduced me as being doctor. Perhaps an honorary one. Promise you that I will never take a knife or a scalpel. But then unfortunately, I've said this before, any shade of red can simply knock me off. My vasovagal, as you say it, system is extremely weak. So then I chose the next best. I went in for law. But Mr. Dr. Srikumar knows I'm inviting a brilliant young doctor into my family. I'm blessed to do that. She calls him uncle. So when I told her that I'm coming here today, she said she knows him so well. They always say, I think you've heard this before, all angels don't have wings. They sometimes have stethoscopes. This is the value that the society normally gives to a doctor.
Now, what happens during the time frame that we have worked is essentially that we take things for granted. This is the problem that we face. This is not with the profession of medicine alone. It's a profession, every vocation you can see that things are taken for granted. I used to say this to lawyers to whom I speak, young lawyers. I used to say when I joined in 1990, Benny and I possibly are contemporaries, though Benny may be slightly senior to me. We joined in the year 1991 actually. I enrolled in 1991. I started my career with my father, who was also a senior counsel. So I remember him saying that, look, those were the days in 1966 when he joined. What wonderful days we had. It's all changing in 1991. So I joined in 1991 and my son is now a lawyer. So I tell him, Shashank, how wonderful it was in 1991. It's all bad these days. So this degeneration that we talk about, it's not really degeneration, it is subjective. It is a subjective evaluation of what we experience. But there is one thing that has really changed over the years, and I can feel that in the last 33 years I've been at the bar also, in the profession, is that we tend to take things for granted. And the biggest weapon that is used against any profession for that is to divide and rule. Create divisions within the system. And this is where Dr. Benavin is absolutely right. This is not in the profession of medicine alone. You ask Benny, you ask any lawyer, they'll say this happens, exactly this happens in the profession of law also. We are people who deal with law on a regular basis, but we face the same problem. This concept of our dignity being violated, our self-respect being questioned, this is very common in almost all the professions. But when it happens to the medical profession, the impact is much more. Dr. Benavin is absolutely right. When we heard about an attack against doctors, I was not really in session at that time. We had a special sitting. Justice Kausar and I, we were in a vacation sitting actually. It was a kind of a suo motu action. Nobody really told us or anything. We saw it from the papers. It was actually shocking for us that a doctor should be so attacked. Because whatever be the reason, an attack, particularly on a doctor, is unacceptable. Totally, no doubt about it. And this is not physical attack alone, every kind of attack. I'll tell you why. You are talking about your rights. And I'm sure that Benny will be speaking at length. He will be dwelling on the differences of the rights that you have. I'll give you an introduction and I'll leave it there. Now, human rights is something that is universal. It is not limited to you or to me. It is universal, it is inalienable, and it is intrinsic. The day you are born as a human, or perhaps even the womb, we recognize rights as a human. This is why when it comes to medical termination, anything over 20 weeks, we take it slightly with a different angle. Because we recognize life as having a right already within the womb. Our succession laws give rights to unborn babies in the womb. So we treat human life as being extraordinarily sacrosanct. And human rights are those which are universal, which means what? Every one of our rights sitting in this hall is the same as the rights you will find if a person is in Antarctica. It doesn't matter, the South or the North Pole or anywhere else in the world. It's absolutely universal. It is inalienable. It's something that cannot be taken away. And it is intrinsic. It is intrinsic because it is part of your domain as a human being. Now, these human rights are common. Every right that a human being has is completely common to every one of us. So this is why the famous Martin Luther King quote, "Injustice somewhere is injustice everywhere." So doctors don't have an additional human rights or anything. Your rights are not really that of human rights alone. Human rights are something that is ingrained in every one of us, the same thing. But your rights are then defined differently when it comes to the profession. You've all heard of the fundamental rights. You have all heard of the constitutional fundamental rights. I've asked this to many students who have not been able to answer it correctly. What is the difference between a fundamental right and a human right? If every human right is inalienable, intrinsic, and universal, how do you say that some rights are not fundamental and some others are? The answer is very simple. You've all heard of the Second Amendment of the American Constitution. The right to bear arms, to carry weapons, is a fundamental right in US, not in our country. So, right to bear arms is certainly a human right, even in India. If you are threatened, if you are under some kind of a threat, you can apply to the district collector or whoever is the competent authority.
and you will be given a weapon license. But it is not a fundamental right. Whereas in the US it is. The difference is this. Every country has its own ethos. You have grown up from different circumstances, just like any other human being. Every nation is also like a human being. The way I was born, the way I have been brought up, is different from the way every one of you have been the circumstance under which you have lived. So every nation has certain rights which they called very, very important and sacrosanct. They are classified as human rights, fundamental rights. That forms part of the constitutional guarantees of a fundamental right. Essentially, it means what? That you can come to the High Court or to the Supreme Court and have it enforced. But the other rights are not something that cannot be, that's not meant to be not enforced. They are meant to be enforced. And Article 226 of our Constitution certainly gives you the right to approach the High Court for any right. It is not fundamental rights alone. Any right you want to get enforced, you can move to the High Court. Of course, the Supreme Court under Article 32, you can only move for fundamental rights. So the High Court's powers are, by the constitutional scheme, more defined. It says that you can approach the High Court for any right, any violation of right. Now, the right to live without being assaulted is, of course, a fundamental right because it forms under Article 21 of the Constitution of India. Your right to practice without threat is a fundamental right because it falls under Article 19(1)(a). This is the conspectus in which we acted, and we thought that, at least for the first thing, that the personnel be protected from violence. And I'm happy that Dr. Benaven in the lift told me that acts of violence has come down. Of course, we are also keeping a complete track. I'm getting kind of a report almost on a weekly to bi-weekly basis. But it has now come down because perhaps the incidents are also very low. I'm happy for that. It was a very powerful speech by your president, the new president. It was hard-hitting. There are many things which perhaps I'm not aware of, or perhaps I have not been exposed to yet. I'm sure Benny will give me a brief of what happens during the seminar today. But the fact remains simply that you have a right to practice. And that right is not yours alone. When a doctor's rights are breached, take it from me, it is not your rights alone that are breached. It is a right of the community. It is a right of the patient. I said this in the court 2 weeks ago, or perhaps last week, I'm not sure, maybe my memory is fading. I said, do you know why a patient is called a patient? Why is a patient called a patient? P-A-T-I-E-N-T. That's okay, I can see that. I am used to being on the precipice most of the time. I play the balance. Thank you, sir. So, this is a question I posed to the court actually, when something relating to something to do with the doctors came up. It's because patients are expected to be patient. Because the system takes its own time. The body responds differently. Something which I tell all my friends, wherever there is an audience. Suppose somebody has a fever, or two people have fever. You administer paracetamol as you do to all such patients. One may get well in an hour, the other may not get well at all. We do not know. It's because the physiological differences and the response is different. So doctors are not in charge of that. That is where the concept of God comes in. Whether you are a believer or otherwise is immaterial. You are aware that there is a touch of a higher force. You may call it God or whatever you want to call it. There are things which are not within your control. You are not attributable. Everything that happens in a treatment cannot be attributed to a doctor. But unfortunately, I think Dr. Benaven reflected upon that also. Patients and bystanders tend to believe that every action has an equal and commensurate reaction. So they believe that I present you a patient. You follow the protocols, the patient will live. If the patient dies, that means there is a breach of protocol. This is an established and accepted kind of a misnomer, a misnotion. And this is the background and the root cause of all these issues that you find, at least from the angle of physical abuse and all that. The other kind of abuse that you're talking about, the violations that was reflected. And I was just reading through the brief. I'm not carrying my glasses, so I was trying to read it as far as I could. All those violations with respect to your the workplace, your credentials, the requirements, and all that. These are all matters that have to be addressed systematically and systemically. And this is a good beginning. I started by saying, every time a claim comes up, and this is before any administrator, there is no difference between one administration or the other, one political dispensation or the other. wherever there is a claim, and if it is a dispensable claim for them, they try to do it by creating divides. They create a contra claim and opposing requirement, and then they try to balance it and say, sorry, we can't deal with this because this is the reason. There is an opposing reason that is always given to you. And this is where we normally fail as any profession. And I'm standing here as a lawyer today, I'm not as a judge or anything. I believe that I'm part of the legal system. It's the same profession. Whether you sit on that side or this side makes really no difference. As we normally say, judges just sit in here where lawyers stand and argue. They make more money. Benny knows that. So every profession, as long as it stands together. And the problem is that the numbers have now arisen. There was a time when I joined the profession in 1991. Just saying that you are a lawyer was enough to command respect. And those small indelible images in my mind where my father would go to the nearby shop and they would come running out. He used to smoke those days. He stopped because of me later. They would come out and give him a pack of cigarettes because he was a lawyer. I've seen, I don't know if you remember, Dr. Mugundan, all those people who were my father's friends. Just to say you're a doctor was a kind of respect that was unimaginable, unenviable actually. Now, why has that really, in our perception, if it has come down? I don't think it has come down, at least for you. Because Dr. Kavita knows this. Last time I came to this hall was at the invitation of the ladies. Much more colorful and much more, pardon me, much more glamorous. So I spoke on those days, on these lines on that day also. The perception of the general public about doctors is still not changed, really. I don't know if you are aware. I am telling you because I have a worm's eye view and a bird's eye view, both ways. I am seeing it from the top and from the ringside view. The respect that you command is still the finest any profession anywhere in the world can command. A doctor is still a doctor. I was absolutely pleased when I got a bride for my son who's studying to be a doctor. So this is where the public perception has never changed. So don't be under that impression. What you're really facing is a systemic challenge. It is not the challenge from the public. It's a systemic challenge which generally defeats your claims by operating in an opposing force. And that is very, very effective, and that's the oldest game in the rule book. This has been all through. And how you deal with that as a common cause. And this stage really shows. In fact, I was thinking in my mind, the stage is actually more loaded than that side. But this is absolutely necessary today. Because this is the kind of participation that would send a strong message. Dr. Benavin is absolutely right there, and great initiative. But we are not to act like trade unions. Doctors, even lawyers, are not expected to be trade unionists. We are not expected to behave like trade unionists. We are expected to behave with the respect and the dignity that behooves our system, our credentials. Much more for the doctors. I'm not dwelling on that too much because I'm sure that Benny will also deal with it. So therefore, when you deal with a common cause, please treat it as a common cause. Never let a chasm come within it. Never let an opposing force be brought in to neutralize the power of your claims. This is very, very important. And as long as you do that strongly, you have the legal system. Of course, we can't take up every case as a suo motu matter. But wherever petitions are filed, we have matters relating to the internships, we have matter relating to the stipends. All those matters are still pending. Some of them are still before me. I'm not speaking on it in detail now. And we have been responding wherever we could. We were responding with respect to the CMRI for a few students of a particular college in the northern Malabar area. So we have been responding. So Dr. Benavin said sympathy. I don't think it is sympathy, it is empathy, because we understand that finally our destiny will bring us all to you one day. We know that. And I say this also, I said when I see a gathering of doctors like this, I'm really happy that you have called me as a guest and that I'm not on an observation table with all of you looking at me. So I'm 55, turning 56. I hope I can have this run for some more time. But eventually I know that I will come running to one of you or to many of you. So this is the importance that doctors have in the society. Without a doctor, we cannot run the society at all. So please don't be under the impression that the society is not with you. The society is with you. What you see is not the society. What you see are exceptions of the society. What you feel is the indifference of the system and not the indifference of the society. We treat you with the greatest respect, and this is the highest respect that anybody can get in any commonality of societies. So please don't be under that impression. But wherever you have to act, please act civilly. Please act with the force that you can command. And your force, unfortunately, perhaps you are not aware. The sound of silence, Simon and Garfunkel, is the greatest of the oxymorons. It's the opposing sound of silence. Keep silent and you will see the sound is deafening. This is the power of silence. It's the deafening silence. That's the oxymoron, sound of silence. Doctors are expected to be silent and to work. But your silence has the thunderstorm that doctor was talking about yesterday. It is that power of the silence, the thunderstormic power of the silence, which is important, which should drive you. We are all with you. This is not being condescending or patronizing. We are privileged to be with you. That should be the way we speak as a member of the common society. We are privileged to be with you. We will walk with you. We will stand with you because we understand. As I said earlier, some angels certainly carry stethoscopes. And I see every one of you doing that. Thank you so much. And I hope that you have a great day ahead. And I will be asking Benny to help me with the decisions or your the concepts that you got today. And I promise to run with you to the extent I can within my limits. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wanted to be a doctor. Thank you so much.
May I now have the honor to invite our most respected Dr. R.V. Ashokan, National President-elect, for the keynote address.
Beloved State President Dr. Joseph Benaval, most respected Honorable Justice Devan Ramchandra, Senior Advocate Benny Thomas, State Secretary Dr. Shashidhar, Dr. Suresh, KGMOA, Dr. Nirmal Bhaskar, KGMCTA, Dr. Mubarak Sani, KPMCTA, Dr. Vinod, KGIMOA, Dr. Nitin, KMPGA, Past President Dr. Joseph Mani, Dr. Alex Franklin, Dr. CKC, Dr. A.V. Babu, Dr. Sri Kumar Vasudevan, Dr. P.T. Sakriya, Dr. Samuel Koshi, and my dear Kerala State IMA members and leaders. Let me first acknowledge it was a great speech by our Chief Guest, Honorable Justice Devan Ramachandra. Quite impressive. He at least gave us two things which I have also been contemplating.